Stop number 4 is the Mary Dunn Cemetery, uh, also known as the Plantation Cemetery. This cemetery is where uh, many plantation owners or possible workers were buried. Uh, it goes back to the 1700s. Many African Americans are buried here too. Uh, if you look at it, it's about an acre and a half that is an acre and a half that's fenced in. But the cemetery is actually 5 acres, and it is uh, it goes to the right and to the left, and it runs all the way to the Mungin River, which is another 200 feet behind it. Um, uh, it was started by the Martin Angel family, and Martin Angel was actually uh, a Tory and there were many Tories in the Low Country, and he fighting for England, and the reason they were fighting for England is because they were given their land directly from the king and the Lord proprietors who were actually in charge of South Carolina. So uh, Martin Angel was fighting for the Tories. He goes over to Hilton Head and gets in a little battle with, I'll call it our side, the Patriots, and he kills one of our people. So he gets in his bateau and he sails back over to Defusky. He gets on his horse. If you look over to the left of the cemetery, you can still see about where the old site of his plantation house was. He goes riding wide open all the way from the north end of the island to the south end where you are, and rides up to his house, and his wife and daughter having breakfast, and he runs inside the house and he says, "I'm a dead man." He said, "They're coming after me. I've killed somebody, and they're behind me. They're gonna kill me. I don't want to die in the house." He goes out in the front yard and is buried there, and is buried in this cemetery. They kill him. He's buried in the cemetery, in that big brick sarcophagus that you see out there in front of you, that's got the ivy growing on it. And interesting anecdote to that, when um, when he and his wife was later buried there, when the Civil War broke out, uh, uh, the Northern soldiers wanted to rob all the graves because there were 5,000 troops, Northern troops, and they heard there were diamonds buried and all that kind of stuff. And so they knocked a hole in the sarcophagus, and uh, they never bricked it up until about 1990. There was a hole there, and you could look in there and see two steel coffins in the shape of a mummy. One had the top pulled off of it. That was his wife, where they'd gone. You could see where they went through her fingers. And the faceplate on his coffin was broken out. Incidentally, those are Fisk, F-I-S-K coffins, if you want to Google that. Fisk coffins were used in the 1700s and 1800s. Don't know when they were made, but they were very, very expensive. Bodies that were put in those coffins that were not disturbed have absolutely no decay or deterioration whatsoever. They're exactly as they were when they were put in there. So, kind of, when they were going through the bodies were like almost, as though they were just buried, yet they'd been there for 80 and 90 years, I guess. Um, You can wander around in the cemetery. There's a gate on the back side of the cemetery that you can walk back all the way to the Mungin River if you want to do that. But there's no real path. You just have to find your way back there. Uh, one of the prettiest cemeteries. If you're ever within 200 miles of Daufuskie Island around March the 15th, come here and you can watch the azaleas bloom. All those green plants that you see are azaleas that are a couple of hundred years old, and they're absolutely beautiful when they bloom.